Hi, I'm Danny Willett, 2016 Masters champion, and I'm going to give you a little bit of an insight of the golf holes, how I would play them. The first hole, I mean, you've all seen it, fantastic first tee with the crowd so close to the tee box. I mean, you can either play this in two ways. You can either try and hit a little cut driver up the left-hand side, try and take the bunker on a little bit, or you can play it short. The shorter you are, obviously, the longer you've got into that green, the more difficult that second shot becomes, knowing that you definitely can't miss it. And down the second hole, fantastic par 5. Similar to the first, you can play it in two different ways. We've hit 3-wood up towards that right-hand bunker because you can't reach it, or if you're feeling really brave and the wind's in the right direction, you know, you see the guys who can bomb it over that bunker and get it down there to leave a lot shorter second shot. You've seen guys hole it in there, Louis a few years ago. You've seen some fantastic shots because of how the green slopes and plays. You kind of hit to the back section of that green, and it can kind of slope down to that right-hand flag quite easily. Third hole, you know, same again. Augusta gives you a lot of options on where you want to hit your tee shots as to where the pins are and how you like playing it. You can either hit a 4-iron up that hole up the right-hand side and leave yourself a clearish second shot, or again, you'll see guys smash driver up and over the hill and try and get it within 40 or 50 yards. I think a lot of that depends on the flag position. To a left-hand flag where the green's a little bit narrower, that pitch shot from short left isn't that easy. So again, a lot of the time around that place, we're working flag backwards and kind of take it that way. Fourth hole, treacherous par 3, can play anything from a 2-iron down to an 8-iron, depending on where they've put the tee, where the wind is and where the flag position is. Getting the wind right on that hole is an absolute animal. You've seen guys there flying it over the hedge line onto Washington. You've seen guys coming up 20-30 yards short. To get your club selection right on hole 4 is really tricky. Hole 5, again, you know, many different ways to play it. You can hit something up the right-hand side, about a 280 run out, or you can try and take the bunkers on a little bit more and bring the bunkers in a little bit tighter, and obviously brings the run out on the right-hand side a bit more as well. The further up you are, though, you do get a flatter line, you do get a much better look at the greens. Looks pretty big on the course guide, but actually when you get there, play is very small with the sections you've got to hit it into. Long right is a definite no-go on hole number 5 to try and get up and down from. 6, fantastic par 3. The elevation change down there is probably about 15-20 yards, and you've got two really specific areas on the back right and back left sections where if you don't quite get them, you know, your ball's going to funnel off the front of that green and going to make it really tricky to make par. Again, with the wind swirling around in the trees and bouncing off hole 16, makes the club selection there really tricky as well. 7, one of the straightest holes at Augusta. Everyone will just try and hit driver there, try and skirt the left-hand trees and kind of bounce it down there to leave yourself, you know, hopefully a 9-iron in there if you get a good drive away. And I would have said probably one of the narrowest greens on the golf course, probably only about 11-12 yards deep in places on that green there. And again, the pin positions make that play really tricky. Long on hole number 7 is definitely not where you want to go with the approach shot. Hole number 8, again, that for me is, in an ideal world, you're just trying to hit either a real piercing bullet fade off the left-hand trees on the run out, or you're trying to hit a draw off the right-hand trap. And then if you get a really good tee shot away, you know, hopefully then you can try and hook one round the very last tree about 50 yards short and get it scuttling up there, you know, front edge, which would leave you a pretty nice chip to most flags. Again, Augusta are very clever, even with a second shot there where you can get close to the green. If you can't get up, you've got to be looking at your misses, because there's 3 very definite knuckles on the 8th green, and if you get the wrong side of one of them to a tight flag, you've got no chance of getting up and down. 9 then is a beautiful sweeping dogleg left. You're trying to skirt the left-hand trees with driver and get it. If you get a real good one down there, you can get it all the way down to the bottom of the hill, and then the elevation change off the tee is probably 10 yards downhill, then you turn back round, and the second shot there, again, you got the natural amphitheatre at the guys sat around the 9th green, probably only 3 yards off the right-hand side of the 9th green there. So with how the green sits on the angle from front right to back left, you get the wind out the left there, it becomes a really tricky second shot to try and hug any of those left-hand flags. But luckily, the right-hand miss gives you a little bit of an option there to get it up and down, which not too tricky of a spot. 10. You see a lot of trouble off 10 is a strange old hole. You can hit it straight down the right and probably about a 270 run out there, or you see guys obviously trying to really hold the corner and get it going down there. In an ideal world, you're going to hit a little baby draw, try and pitch it about 260, 270, and then that's then going to skirt all the way down to the bottom of the hill and leave yourself, you know, kind of a mid to short iron in that hole. Green, it sits pretty severely sneaky back right to front left. Right-hand bunker there, as I've found out in the past, is not really the place you want to go to a front right flag. Depends how they shave the bank on the left. Sometimes that's quite a nice area to chip from if it just trickles off. But in some years, if they trim it down, it's going to run 20-30 yards down that hill and makes it, again, very difficult. 11th hole, fantastic par 4, you know, the start of Amen Corner. You've got to get a great drive away, long and straight. The fairway does open up a little bit out the left-hand side, but then if you do that, kind of gives you a bit of a different angle in. You've got to kind of skirt the water then for the second shot. So the longer the better down that 11th tee. Yeah, you then obviously walk to the top of the hill and then you see Amen Corner coming over the horizon, just short of the flag there. If you're 30, 40 feet short of that flag, middle of the green, you'd take that every day. 12, obviously a very notorious hole in the world of golf. I actually think that hole might play easier if it was a bit longer, because there'd be less interruption from the wind with the spin of the irons that you're hitting. But the fact that you're hitting a wedge or a 9-iron, you're imparting more spin, means when the wind bounces down off all the trees and around the tee box on 13, it really affects the golf ball coming in there. You've got to drop on with a good number, and you've got to hope that you get a little bit of a lull in the wind, you know, when you step up on that tee box. 13, play that in many different ways. We don't really draw the ball that easily, so we often hit 3-wood straight at the trees, you know, so we can't really run out. But if you're feeling pretty adventurous, or you know, you look at Bubba and Phil as lefties, it's slightly easy to get the height and the cut for them guys to get it round the corner. And again, depending on how far you've got left in, if you've got kind of 250, 260, the ball's going to be 2 or 3 foot above your feet. For us, we try to get it quite close there to Raise Creek, just to make that chip up the green a little bit simpler. You start to leave yourself 100, 120 yards in there, and you're spinning the ball a lot. That green's really steep from back left to front right, and the ball can spin pretty quickly into that water. 14, just a nice, again, one of the holes, it's like 7 for me. You've just used as straight as they come really for Augusta. You've got to try and skirt the left-hand side a little bit, purely because the fairway bounces left to right, and you don't want to be running too much into the right semi. But again, a green that theoretically is very large, but they split it bang in half from front to back with that massive ridge that runs across there. So any ball pitching too short with a bit of spin is all going to feed to front right and going to play havoc. Trying to get up and down from front right there, or 2-putt, is really tricky. So getting the number right, distance right for your second shot on there is really key. 15's great par 5. You're going to try and hit a little bullet cut off them left-hand trees and try and get it down the alleyway down the right-hand side. If you're too far left, you're going to have to lay it up and chip and run it under the trees and kind of get it running to about 80 yards short of that green. And then if you get a great driveway there, again, the green is not very deep, you know, and if you're long on there, then again, you're chipping then back onto a green up the hill, and then as soon as it gets on the green, it's down and away from you. And you'll have seen shots in the past where guys have thought they've hit a great second shot in there, go a little bit long, and then the up and down actually becomes a little bit of a nightmare, because you can chip it into the front water. As silly as that sounds, it's very easily done. 16, again, a pretty iconic par 3, you know, one that helped me in 2016. You're going to be hitting anything there from a 9-iron up to a 6-iron, depending on wind and tee box location. And the same again, you've got very distinct sections on that green with a spine that runs all the way up through the middle of the green. Obviously you've got the famous back left Sunday position there. The back right location there is a really tricky one to get it close to. You've got to bring in the left swale, you've got to bring in the back right bunker, and then, you know, short left as well. It's a really tricky one to get just right on 16. And then 17, obviously since the Eisenhower tree was removed, I think that tee shot is now a good bit easier than it used to be. I never played it before, but from what I remember, I'm watching it on TV. So again, it's a pretty straight golf hole. So you're gonna just try and hit a good solid drive up there, and that's gonna leave you anywhere again from a wedge to an 8-iron in, depending on wind. And then a very treacherous green, split kind of into 4 different sections. You've got 3 distinct knuckles on there that split them sections up, and the one place you definitely can't go there is long and right. Long and right on there is dead to most flags. And then you get the famous 18th. Again, depending on how far you hit it and what you want to do, we hit 3-wood a lot of the time if the wind's in the right direction, because then you can't run out of the bunkers. If you want to hit drive, you've got to peel it off that bunker and kind of you're trying to skirt the right-hand side of the fairway. The only issue there is if you overcut it, you're going to hit a couple of them big trees on the right-hand side, and you'll have seen some really famous golf shots from under them big trees on the right there to try and chip and run it up the green. And again, a green there that looks pretty simple to the naked eye, split right across the middle of the green, front to back, you know, back left, back right, quite nice positions. You can work it. There's a little bit of a bank on the right that it works in. The bunker's not as bad if the flag's up the backside there. You get any of them pins on the front and you start missing it left and right, and it starts making that trying to go up and down there really difficult. So yeah, middle of the fairway 290, and then middle of the green, and hope that you get the club right for the right section. But that's my insight to Augusta's 18 holes.